Hey there guys, so this is the overdue next comparison of the Shadowscape tarot to the Wild Unknown tarot, the other way around technically. And I've been doing this series because it helps me to connect to the energies of the card, and it sort of gives you insight into how I interpret the energies and the images and the symbolism behind each of the Wild Unknown tarot cards that I draw. And I read to you a bit from the Shadowscapes companion, which is obviously reading from the book, and I do that for just point of comparison. It's not something I need to be doing. Reading from the book is generally a beginner thing, but it does help to just show how people interpret the Shadowscapes, and then we can compare and contrast. That's basically what that was about, because there has been questions about using tarot and reading from the book, and this, that and the other has come up in questions and things, and this is just for comparison's sake, because there is no book with the Wild Unknown tarot unless you purchase a separate companion, which according to reviews is very bog standard meanings of the cards. So I wanted to sort of just give you that standardized meaning as a point of reference, really, a jumping board to better understanding. And that's what books, particularly in tarot reading, are all about. A springboard for your own symbolism and interpretation. So the first card we pulled today, it's a lot less swords this week, thank goodness. In my own readings, all I've been getting is swords, is the star. Isn't it pretty? So the star has every kind of movement and colour within itself. I don't know how well that's going to go, because it probably... are you going to focus? Hooray! It's very almost musical in the way that the colours are used in the star itself. The star encapsulates all the different colours on some level, and they look like they've been painted with a paintbrush. There's something artistic and almost whimsical about the way that the colour use has been, and then in the middle there is a little bit of white there, just a little bit. So it's not perfectly coloured in, it's almost watercolory in the way it looks. It has that almost watery element to it. Surrounding it are other stars, all of which have no colour, and then the darkness around the star is a lot more than when it goes from the star. There's almost that sort of movement in this card. So there is light background here and dark background here, and the much not broader brush strokes, but further apart separated strokes here, and less of them, to give the idea of that shooting star movement, if you ask me. If I just hold the card again, you can almost see that sort of shooting star movement, because this sort of imagery here portrays the movement. It's again simplistic in its imagery. A lot of the imagery in this deck is quite, in one sense, simplistic. There isn't an overload of information in each card, which is one of the key differences between this and my other deck. I mean, if you look at the Stephanie Puman Law Star card, there is a lot of imagery in it. And yeah, I'll just pop it over the top of it in a minute so you can see a little bit better, hopefully. And so in the Stephanie Puman Law deck, there is a woman. There are no people in the Wild Unknown. There's a distinct lack of people gumming up the works in the Wild Unknown tarot. There is a woman, she's reaching for the sky, there is a star above her head, there are koi around her self, around her feet. She's stood on water. There is a lot of water imagery. There's the purples, there's the lilacs, there's the movement, there's the fluidity. And the fluidity they have in common for sure. That, I mean, you can see the fluidity within the star here in the way it's painted, and then the fluidity of movement beneath it. And it has one very focal point here, and the star is sort of a focal point in this, but it's slightly less dramatic, I would say. So the meaning from the book: regaining hope, faith in the future, inspiration, finding the still and silent place within your being of serenity, tranquility amid trouble, harmony, offering without reservations, sharing and being generous. The harshness of daylight or even moonlight is gone, and there is nothing but the calm and non-judgmental eyes of the stars. There is peace, a space to gather up, prepare, uplift your spirit, let loose doubt and fear, embrace the night. The stars have always been a symbol of guidance and can lead you home. The resilient fish, carp, symbolize strength, perseverance, courage and determination of spirit. The chrysanthemums are also symbols of hope. So there are very specific fish and plants in the Stephanie Pooh Law one, which obviously doesn't translate. But I think the idea of the guiding light is definitely within both cards. The Wild Unknown Tarot does that very well because you are drawn to stare at the star more than anything else, and it almost is like that idea of staring up at the sky at night, looking at the stars, being guided by the stars. There is that there. There definitely is, and I think that's why there are more than one star in there, to give the impression of a map of stars. There are more than one stars in the Stephanie Pooh Law deck as well. I don't think you can see. Maybe if I move back a little. Is that better? I don't know what the camera wants to do. It's so awkward sometimes. There you go. There you go. So I think it does do that very well. Maybe if we knock everything over. Maybe if I just move these two, maybe that would have been better. Yeah. We can do that. We can do it that way. You can't actually see my crystal setup in the background. That's my crystal, and candle is all burning for divination just to help me out. So I think they both do the star justice. Star is a beautiful card in the tarot. It has a very lovely energy. It's kind of feminine, and I kind of understand why a female often turns up in the thing. She's often naked in a lot of tarot decks. She's not naked in this one. And there's always water there. There's always that emotional side. There's that hope and emotion and gentleness and tranquility side. I think they both do this really well in this deck. So let's move on, because we can't be here forever, and I could probably carry on about the star quite a bit. So the next card is the Seven. Can you see both of those? Seven of Wands. Seven of Wands is conflict and guardianship. It always reminds me of how I get quite aggressive about protecting my sisters, this card. Right, so that, I don't think that actually shines through in this card. They have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the wands are white. They are the reverse of normal, and one is black with it being on fire, illuminating the rest of the situation. In the Stephanie Pooh Law, we have Vixen guarding her cubs against a badger, oddly enough, given the circumstances of recent events. So this card to me, when you see a flame like that on a, I guess a wand, a staff, a torch, you're looking at messages of fire, light, warmth, and this to me says illumination, literally because the rest of the card is dark. The white behind that flame is very, very potent, almost dandelion-like. It almost has a dandelion quality about this card, if you look at it, like a wish element. And then there is the barrier aspect here of the other three white wands. So it could be the idea that barriers are in place that are stopping you from being fully illuminated, like perhaps other people are causing you conflict, or outside situations are causing you to not be able to shine freely, but you're still shining so brightly that you overcome that. There is that overcoming of that. So maybe it does speak to me of overcoming obstacles put in the way by others, because these three cards, these white cards, these other three wands, these white ones, these ones without sort of purpose, they have no colour, they have no real bearing on the situation of the card, are blocking, but they're not fully blocking, they're sort of arched out the way. We have sort of a very V shape here. There's a femininity about that, obviously, if you stop and think about it. Let's not get into it totally, but it's female shaped. And so that one guiding, that would be you, and overcoming whatever this situation right here is. So that actually does make a lot of sense. So in the book, it's talking about the vixen facing off. Her actions are necessity, not merely courage, and yet it's more courageous for being selfless. Her strength makes her fight 10 times more fiercely and with a fiery strength. Fortitude, strength, the bamboo within the picture sways but does not break. It grows tenaciously and sends out multiple shoots in multiple directions. Taking a stand, defending what you believe in. God, can you tell this reading was for me? The world is full of strife and stiff competition. Do not buckle under a stiff wind, but sway like the bamboo. Seemingly insurmountable odds can be overcome with faith and courage. So actually the two cards, when you first look at them, you don't think they actually intertwine in meaning at all. But when you actually go deeper, when you think about it, when you start to talk and think and speak and connect, they do connect really well. Okie dokie. So the next card was the Five of Cups. Emotions, sad emotions at that. So the Five of Cups within the Wild Unknown Tarot is this very sad horse. The horse is looking down, he has a distinct sadness about him, everything about him is drooping, you know, his hair is drooping, the angle of his head is quite sad. If you have any connection with any animals, you're sort of in that position. Just, it speaks of sadness, the way that the animal's head is sort of slanted downwards and sort of almost tucked in a little bit. That to me speaks of being unhappy, of unsettledness. The cups are sort of above in a sort of almost arch. They're very ill-defined, maybe. They're, you know, they're almost sketchy, as they're an outline basically. The light is up here, his head is facing into darkness, so that where the light is, he is facing away from that. The curve of the card comes round and it's basically sorrow. I know what this card means quite well, obviously. It's not one of the cards I have to check on myself. And the Stephanie Pumanlaw one is beautiful. Both these cards are absolutely perfect in their imagery, both being completely different. The Stephanie Pumanlaw one has a woman on the shore. She's holding a fishbowl and staring forlornly into it. There is a sweep of movement across her where her dress is being swept away, swept backwards, you know, and there are bowls on the floor, there's a bowl in the water, there's that sense of things being dropped, things being lost, there's water all around, there are creatures all around, but she's very focused on this one bowl rather than all the rest of the bowls around her. She looks sad. There is a lot of water and fluidity and movement in here, and both these cards pick out really, really well. So let's have a quick read from the Stephanie Pumanlaw deck. Her feet sink with each step across the sand dunes so that her legs ache by the time she reaches the water's edge. She walks to the edge of the strand with a half-empty, half-filled bowl tightly, afraid it'll slip from her grasp. The water is icy at her feet. She is so intent on her own sorrows and woes. She has sent her hopes across the sea. They have set sail upon a white ship, and she wonders when they will return. She fills the bowl with her own tears. She imagines a fish swimming in those tears, swimming through the air of the empty bowl, unbound by liquid or air, and then she sets that briny offering to the others on the ground, wallowing in regret and loss, its rejection of pleasure, feeling sorrow, and wishing for what might have been. So the sorrow is prevalent in both. There is that sense of looking into the darkness in this one, turning away from the light. That the animal is clearly sad, and it wrenches on the heartstrings to see sad animals, and horses especially. I think it really is a powerful card to me. I connect with horse energy anyway. It's part of my goddess path, and a sad horse and the imagery there is very, very sad, looking away from the light, and it works for both cards really, really well. Let's move these all out for now. Pop them in their independent decks. That one, that one, that one, that one, that one. Right, final card. 10 of Cups. Couldn't be more different. Full size circle, almost. Bit down. I was a little bit disappointed with the 10 of Cups from the Wild Unknown deck, because the 10 of Cups is such a joyous little card. It's sort of intriguing that this 5 by 10 is transmuted into love almost. So the 10 of Cups has literally 10 cups. They almost look like bells in this situation, and they are streaming colour between them. So there is the interconnectedness, there's the range of colours, there's a full spectrum of colours, there's almost like a crisscrossing rainbow in this sense. There is a little bit of meshing and sort of bleeding of colours across the lines. There are lines connecting them, but those lines are not just defined. So the darkness of the line, there is a black line underneath the colour, which is very defined, but then the colour going through them is kind of watercolory, kind of smudgy, kind of artistic. It's that emotional blend. It's touching on water by making it look like watercolours. It's clever. And it's that springing of everything. There's movement. It's kind of the interconnectedness of life. I can see it as being symbolic of relationships and the love between people, because there's that interconnectedness, but it's kind of messy, and it's kind of lots of different layers of connectedness and lots of different colours of connectedness. And the darkness around the card is completely blown out by the colour in the middle. There is white light around where all the colour is, and the darkness is basically kept at bay by all this bright colour imagery going on. I actually prefer the Stephanie Puman Law one for this. That does have a nice imagery in it, but it could have been a whole lot punchier if you ask me. So the Stephanie Puman Law one has a couple who are basically so intertwined. She's looking back over her shoulder and reaching back for him. He's reaching around for her. The limbs are all connected. We have sort of the moon here. They're in water. We have the fish, and they're almost swirling around in that sort of harmonious twist, that harmonious coupling, that harmonious interconnectedness, where I'm doing this, if that makes sense, that connecting. So let's read quickly. I don't think we need to. The outside world ceases to exist for them because they have attained their heart's desire. They want for nothing. The union, they need no other to make this moment complete, but there is union nevertheless between the two of them. Joy radiates from the card. The fish are symbols of plenty and prosperity. The 10 of Cups is the final attainment of serenity and peace. Success and happiness have been granted at last. An all-encompassing emotional attachment. Contentment, sorry. Not just a physical or material pleasure. Family support and bonds are also indicated as being important. So I think this Stephanie Puman Law one does that very well, as it's not overly imaged like some of her cards are, but that sort of twist, that connectedness, that embrace, it's all there. I love it. So that is it for this tarot video. I will continue to do these as long as people are interested in my formula, if you like, connecting to the Wild Unknown Tarot, which is, it's half to do with me just sort of vocalizing my connecting with the cards. I can do this by myself quite easily. I'm not going to be reading exact meanings applying to these because that doesn't happen. I'm reading the book meaning for these just to give a springboard. Like I said, it did come up. I just want to hit home that the book is there for beginners, and I've been reading tarot. Oh, tarot is one of the first forms of divination. Oh goodness, I was probably 14 when I first started looking at tarot. That's, oh god. Is that 14 years ago? No, that's wrong. 10 years ago, maybe 14 years ago. Oh my god, that's the age of a small child, right? How depressing. So, you know, it's not something that I have to bring the book into it. I just thought that might be useful for basic meanings. So let me know what you think. Many blessings.